All right, fellas. So, NBA free agency has began. Some things have went down, especially today. Very big news out of Milwaukee. Dame got waived and they're signing Miles Turner. So, unfortunately, Shams was right. Crazy stuff did happen. I thought it was a little funnier when he said all this crazy stuff was going to happen, and the only thing that happened was, the Grizzlies doing stuff. They signed that one white guy. So, congrats to him. Call the family, buddy. Enjoy that money, definitely. Anyways, in terms of the Knicks have gotten underway in terms of their signings. Last night, via Shams and many other people, Jordan Clarkson is expected to sign with the New York Knicks after he clears free agency waivers. He was bought out yesterday by the Utah Jazz, and on a vet minimum, which is being reported that he will sign, I find it very hard to complain. Okay, Jordan Clarkson is a former Sixth Man of the Year winner in 2020-21. Last year, put up 16 3 and 4 a night. Efficiency was not the greatest, 41% from the field, 36% from three, and 80% from the line, good for a 54 true shooting. In terms of what he does well, he can definitely drive the ball, he can dribble, he can create his own shot, and I think he can, drive and kick in terms of his passing. So, from this playoffs, one of the takeaways was definitely that the Knicks needed another guy who can dribble, just create his own shot, get the offense ready. It was a slog having to watch Jalen Brunson be the only guy who can do that. So to get a guy for a vet minimum who is genuinely capable of doing that and formerly was very, very good at doing that in Utah in terms of, getting his own shot, I think this is a great signing. Obviously, vet minimum was bought out for a reason. Defensively, not exactly the best, okay? However, I like to say the game is about a bucket. And man, oh man, Jordan Clarkson can get you buckets. Also, streakiness and seriousness, those are factors here. As we saw when Jordan Clarkson came to the Garden this year with Utah, he kind of just, hijacked the offense. Granted, I think that may be because, it's the Jazz. They're not exactly concerned with being entirely serious at the moment. However, we can probably coach that out fairly quickly here with the New York Knicks, being a contender and all. Now, in Knicks news that came out today, free agent center Gershon Yabusele has agreed to a 2-year, $12 million contract with the New York Knicks, plus a player option. The Knicks negotiated the new deal with agents Oliver Mazette and Richie Felder. Big congrats to them. I love how he has to pay homage to every single agent that gives him the news in the tweets. It's just hilarious, okay? I find it funny every time. Some guy named Hurdle, I don't know his name, but one agent's really getting. Shams has tweeted his name 5 times yesterday, okay? He's getting to work. Anyways, what does Gershon here do well? I'm not exactly on a first name basis, but I don't want to butcher his last name. He is a big wing, he can shoot threes, and his defense is kind of meh. I know he called him a center here, but that's just because the Sixers were dead last year and someone had to play center, and he did it. So, little versatility here, as you can see, big body. He's pretty well built. Better than me, I would say, by a very fair margin, okay? He also dunked on LeBron in the Olympics. So, that's that, I guess. Yeah, I mean, once again, a fairly relatively cheap signing, so I'm not really going to start losing my mind. One thing this does do, though, is it dips into the Knicks taxpayer mid-level exception, which does lock us into being an over-the-second-apron team. So should be interesting to see if that's how we're going to operate, or if another move is going to be made to kind of shed a little salary here. That is all the Knicks free agency news I have. However, we still are in the midst of a head coaching search. And updates today. Mike Brown's second interview with the Knicks is today. Sources familiar with the process tell SNY. There is a possibility that other head coaching candidates may come in for second interviews. Brown garnered support in his first interview. His interview today will include Knicks owner James Dolan. It is common practice for a candidate to meet with a team ownership in late stages of interviews prior to final decision being made. Knicks have also interviewed James Borrego, Taylor Jenkins, Mike Nori, and touched base with the South Carolina coach Dawn Staley, according to the school's athletic director. Additionally, James Borrego is currently employed by the Pelicans and under contract, so there would be hurdles to adding him to a potential Mike Brown coaching staff. Also, Knicks like Borrego, and he's still viewed as head coaching candidate at this point in process. Same goes for Minnesota assistant Mike Inori, but Mike Brown does see Borrego as an important addition on his staff if Knicks deal goes through, as Mark Stein noted. Borrego is viewed across the league as a coach with strong offensive set/creativity and one who places an emphasis on ball movement, spacing, player movement. All three coaches mentioned above have had first interviews with the Knicks. Taylor Jenkins has as well. I mentioned Borrego and Nori specifically because they are two assistant coaches who have interviewed. I'm not exactly going to keep going there, to be honest. It's, the big news here is that Mike Brown is the first candidate to get a second interview, and per all the reporting from not just Ian Begley, but, Mark Stein, Shams, everyone's saying it seems like Mike Brown has become a very, very strong candidate in this search. And the fact that we're already putting together mock Mike Brown coaching staffs, I'm inclined to believe that Mike Brown will likely be the next head coach of the Knicks. For those of you that are a little unaware of Mike Brown and what he brings to the table, he's always been a strong defensive mind going back to Cleveland. He was the coach there for LeBron's first stint in Cleveland, when they had those good jerseys. They should bring those back, by the way. Anyways, he did that. Then he went to Los Angeles to replace Phil Jackson, kind of big shoes to fill there. Unsurprisingly, the Lakers weren't very good by then, and he got fired. However, he kind of remade himself. He did a little stint in Cleveland again with Kyrie and them, got fired again, then went to Golden State, coached with Steve Kerr on that staff. Ultimately, ended up getting the Kings job a couple years back, really juiced their offense, brought them to a respectable level defensively, even with, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, not exactly playing, the most elite defenders. And so this is a guy who, he's good at offense, he's good at defense. I know you're saying, oh, well, why did he get fired? I'm not one to just take the cop-out answer of the Kings are stupid. However, given their moves this free agency, I think the Kings may be a little stupid, unfortunately, for their fans. I just think, they expected him to make wine out of water. For the first 2 years, they didn't really make any moves. Then this past offseason, all right, let's get DeMar DeRozan in here, who, high usage player, kind of weak defensively. They got him in place of Harrison Barnes, who spaces the floor, low usage, he'll play defense for you, essentially the exact opposite of DeMar DeRozan. Okay. And obviously it was taking some time to gel, and would it have worked? I don't really think so, but they didn't even give Mike Brown a real chance to see it through, and they fired him. So I think this is a good coach. He does have some flaws. However, if he's able to produce another great coaching staff around him like he did in Sacramento with a guy like Jordi Fernandez, who obviously is now the Nets coach, if he's able to do that again here in New York, I anticipate he will have a good tenure here. And yeah, so it's looking like Mike Brown is the guy. Knicks signed Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele. And yeah, we're over the second apron now. So interesting things have happened the last day or so here in Knicks land. And whatever happens moving forward, whenever the Knicks do officially sign their head coach or make another move, I will be here talking about it. So appreciate the support. And once again, anything happens, I'll be here.